Central Florida Investments' Westgate Resorts venture in Ocoee contacted Jennifer's emergency contacts. First listed her mother, Joyce Kesse. The person who contacted her was friends of the Kesses, Chief Financial Officer, CFO, Thomas Dugan. Joyce steps outside from when she was doing a presentation in a room from work and takes a call from home when he received a call from the Chief Financial Officer, CFO, Thomas Dugan at Westgate. He calls Drew and asks if Jennifer was okay.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I'm like, hold on, let me call her. She'll answer my phone. So I said, hold on, I'll call you right back. Hung up, called Jennifer's phone.
Now, the reason Westgate Resorts called, because at 11 a.m., Jennifer was expected at a morning meeting. Jennifer's shift began at 8 a.m., and if she was 5 minutes late, she would call. And this was completely out of character for her. Grade A employee, and was almost always on time.
We had started the workday, but after about a half an hour and then an hour, we started wondering, where's Jennifer?
The CFO, Thomas Dugan, was the one who noticed this and made it aware to Jennifer's boss at the time, John Willman. The workplace was calling her cell phone and condo landline, while Tom called the emergency contacts, her parents.
We waited another half hour or so and placed a phone call to Jennifer's dad.
Now back to the parents. Joyce then tries to contact Jennifer's condo landline and her cell phone through her computer, but she can't reach her either. Joyce calls Robert Allen and asks him if he had heard from Jennifer, in which he had responded, no.
And then I texted her, and then I drove into work. And on every Tuesday at my old job, I used to have a staff meeting. And I just texted her again before I went into the staff meeting. I was like, hey, look, have a great day. Hope you're doing, call me when you get a chance or text me when you get this. I remember in the staff meeting that my boss at the time, myself and him, we had kind of a acrimonious relationship. And I remember going to the staff meeting afterwards and being like, I got to ask Jen's opinion. I just want to vent about something he'd said or something that he'd asked me to do. And I called her again or texted her before I went to lunch, and I still hadn't heard from her. And, I wanted to blow some steam and say, hey, look, what do you think about this? She was aware of my work situation. And I didn't hear from her. And then I went to lunch, and that's when Joyce had contacted me.
Back to the parents. Drew and Joyce contacted each other knowing something was completely wrong.
It never even crossed my mind that she was in a car accident. It was, oh my God, we have to find her. And it was like such an overwhelming, like, oh my God, we've got to find her. Like, what? Oh my God. And right away, we suspected the workers because of what she had been sharing with us.
They then try to contact Logan, who's at the gym, and who is not also picking up the phone.
I was in the gym. I come back out to the car, a bunch of missed calls from my folks. Call my dad. He was at the house, and he just said basically something's going on with Jen, or Jen's not answering, or something along those lines. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, nobody can get a hold of Jen. She didn't work. Tom called me, who was one of my parents' really good friends, and he was the CFO of her company. So it's unlike her, this and that, nobody can get a hold of her. And obviously to me, that immediately, like right now I have goosebumps, because that's not like her, obviously, at all. And I had a feeling initially, so I ran home. My dad's like, come home. Got home,
Logan and Drew Kesse talk up going to Jennifer's condo from their house in Bradenton Beach, Tampa area.
We were chatting it up. He said, look, mom was at work. She's up in Tampa at Moffett, so he's going to pick her up. I said, all right, I'm right behind you. I was going to go.
Drew and Logan Kesse take off in separate cars. Logan right behind his father to Jennifer's condo in Orlando from home in Tampa, which is a 2-hour drive.
Pretty much ran out the door with Logan. We were probably on the road within 5 minutes.
While Logan was driving up to Orlando, he calls his best friend Travis Bourguignon for moral support to take the ride with him.
So I'm driving up and I call Travis, who was there with me on the weekend. I'm like, Trav, you'll never fucking believe. I'm telling him all this stuff. I'm like, I need you. Come to Orlando with me. My parents are going to be a little bit behind us, but I want to head out now.
Phone calls are starting to be made to Jennifer's friends from Drew and Logan.
I had to go pick Joyce up at work. I worked out of my home. And we were rushing up. Joyce worked about an hour away. Orlando was a little over 2 hours away. And
Drew picks up Joyce Kesse at her work at Moffitt Cancer Center, Magnolia campus. This is an hour outward from their destination. During this time will be the approximate same time Logan picked up his best friend, Travis Bourguignon, from his home, which is also an hour outward from their destination. After this, they begin to head to Jennifer's condo.
I called her, drove up to pick her up, and Logan met his friend who was actually there, Travis, with the other phone. They zoomed out immediately.
Up to Tampa, me and my dad, and he picked up my mom, picked up Trav, and we cruised out there.
During the drive up, Joyce was on the phone with Robert Allen, who was planning to make the 3-hour drive up from Fort Lauderdale to Orlando, while Logan was on the phone with Jen's friends and sorority sisters, as with Joyce and Drew, as they were starting to spread the message as what was going on with Jennifer. They were also starting to make phone calls to jails and police and hospitals as well to see if anyone had checked in Jennifer Kesse for any sorts of reasons, as for arrest or anything.
We have to find her. Oh my God, we've got to find her.
By the time we started driving, we were calling hospitals and calling jails. You know, we didn't know. We called anyone and everyone we possibly could. Called her all of her girlfriends, see if they could track her down, but it was just completely constant for 2 hours.
We're calling hospitals, we're calling everybody, we're calling friends, and we just kind of like divvied it all up, you know what I mean? And just didn't sit right.
Started to immediately call friends, call police, call hospitals, and make our way to Orlando, where she just bought a brand new condominium for herself and was doing very well. And that's how it started. We called the police.
Drew and I drove to Orlando making phone calls. I reached out to my colleagues who worked in Orlando to call hospitals, call police stations. Was there an accident? I mean, we were crazed. We were absolutely crazed because it's so unlike Jen to just not show up somewhere. So we instantly knew that something was wrong. And it was very wrong.
We were very frantic. Okay, call the hospitals again. Okay, call the police again.
Her brother called me and just said that, her parents were heading to Orlando, that they still hadn't heard from her, that all the police stations, all the hospitals had been checked.
I remember my friend Carrie calling me, the day she went missing, I guess the afternoon or maybe early on, saying, she's missing, they don't know where her car is, and I just couldn't believe it, and we just kept calling each other back and forth, like, kind of, what's going on, and has she been found? And I couldn't really concentrate on school, of course, and I
remember getting the call when I was at work when she first went missing. I think her brother actually called me, which caught me off guard, and I was driving home because I didn't feel good. I can't remember what time it was, probably late morning. I had already gone to work and I didn't feel very good, so I was headed back home, and I got a call and he said, "Have you talked to Jen today?" And I said, "No, I haven't. What's up?" And he said, "We can't get a hold of her. She didn't show up to work." And the upper management was family friends with the Kesses. Her boss let the upper management know, and they contacted the Kesses and said, "Did Jen not feel well? Do you know why she didn't show up to work?" And she didn't. And they said, "No, we have no idea. We just talked to her last night. We have no idea why she wouldn't show up to work." So he was calling me to see if I talked to her because I talked to her regularly, and I didn't. And you have that gut feeling when someone asks you something that's totally not right. You can tell my voice now. You just know, right? Something's not right. And you try to overcompensate that by thinking, well, maybe she really was just sick. Maybe she slept. She just got back from vacation. Maybe she's overtired. Maybe her phone died. Maybe, she lost her charger or something. You try to make excuses for your over-processing, right?
Drew Kesse calls the condo and gets a hold of the maintenance management man, Brian, and he was asked if they could check to see if Jennifer's car was parked in her spot. They went down and said, no, Jennifer's car is not parked in her parking space. Drew then asked Brian to go into her condo to check for anything. Brian says they cannot enter her condo without someone else present with them. They hang up and
did many things. As soon as we started out, obviously, we called police. Then we started to call hospitals. We started to call jails. But one of the first calls we made was to the office at Mosaic. Since we couldn't get in touch with Jennifer and no friends knew we couldn't get in touch or didn't see her that morning or what have you, I had asked I guess he was the maintenance manager. He was an office personnel, but he was on the maintenance side of things. I think his name was Brian. Brian, I think Brian. And I had, we called and we asked, could you go down to Jennifer's condo and see if her car is parked in front of her condo, please? And he said, yeah, hold on. And, he went down there and he said, well, there's no car here. Her car's not here. And we're like, okay, we need you to go in her condo and see if anything's in her condo. And he said, well, I need another person. I can't go in alone. We said, fine, go get another person. Not a problem. Give a call back. And he was gone maybe. I said, I need you to go in her condo to see what's going on. We cannot get her. We asked the management to go in. He said, well, I need to get someone else. I can't just walk in your daughter's residence. She owned it. And I said, well, go get whoever you need, but I need for you to get in there. And it took about 5
He calls back Drew in 5-10 minutes after he found another employee, and then together they entered the unit on the line with Drew and said everything seemed fine, as if she left for work. They got off the phone, and then Drew called the Orange County Sheriff's Department, and they told them to come by to the department. Pretty much once they arrive at the Sheriff's Department, they call them and say that the Orange County Police Department doesn't cover Orlando, the city's issues. Jennifer lived in the part of Orlando, just Orlando, not in like a Windermere in Orlando. They told them to go straight to the house and they'll have a cop meet them.
Zoomed out immediately. We were going to the police department. They said, come up and meet us at the sheriff's office. We no sooner got out of our car at the sheriff's office, our phone goes off. Hey, guess what? That's in the city, not ours. Go to the condo. We'll have a cop meet you.
Logan and Travis arrive at Mosaic at Millennia. They were first because of the stop the Kesse parents had made at the sheriff's department not too far off. Logan arrives and notices her. He starts knocking and trying every door in the complex looking for information on Jennifer. Logan is frantic. Logan makes a notice of an unfinished and unlocked door directly across from Jennifer's unit. Door wide open as hers is locked.
Logan got on her property. He started banging on every single door in the complex. And the only door that was unlocked in the entire complex was the condo door right across from Jennifer's. Right across.
He also goes into a strained evidence of encounter with maintenance workers.
Logan pulled into Jennifer's condo complex.
I just went right up to her condo, see if it was open. Banged on the door, nothing. I went downstairs, saw the workers' van down there right in front of her building, banging on the door. They're not opening the door. I'm just trying to yell through the door, do you see this girl? Do you know anything about it? Roll your windows down. They did not roll their windows down, didn't want to have anything to do with me.
Did it right, and then I get there, and that's where it all started personally with workers. I get there, everything looks fine in her unit and all that kind of stuff, except for you could tell, I think she got ready for work because there was clothes out, a towel out, a shower, whatever. So whether it was the night before or that morning, long story short, the unit looked regular, her apartment looked regular. So hop downstairs, just walking around the complex.
When Logan arrived at Jen's condo that morning, he felt uneasy about some of the maintenance workers.
We see a van sitting, in the front, which we parked next to. I didn't notice there was 2 people in it, but come down, I see there's two workers in it. I'm a little hostile at that point because nobody can get a hold of her sister. It's been a few hours. Obviously, the alarm bells are freaking everybody out because nothing in the hospitals. We don't, nothing from police, no arrests, not in the hospital, no car, nothing like that. So I immediately just start asking everybody around, I see a neighbor, I don't know if it was a neighbor, somebody pull away in the car. I see this guy down there next to our car. I'm like, well, shit, okay. I say, hey, knock on the door. What's up? Have you seen the girl lives up there? No, it was just I asked if they'd seen the girl. There was no. They didn't want to look at me. They didn't want to make eye contact at me. And I'm banging on their door. Open the door, and they're not. They're not acknowledging me. They're not opening their window. They're not opening the door. There's just nothing. Okay, so that's when it started to get really weird to us and to me and Travis. Like, what? Like, answer the fucking door. Have you seen this girl? Do you know where she's at? Like, nothing.
So they didn't roll down the window. They didn't open the door.
Nothing.
So you're knocking on the window. You're trying to talk to these guys. They're not even acknowledging you.
Nothing.
And so then what happened?
So we just start going our next, walking around the backside of the building. And that's where we saw another worker and went up to him. And he was speaking, I said, hey, let me ask you a question. Hey, let me talk to you. I got a question for you. Have you seen the girl up here? We're frantic, mind you, so it might have alarmed. But hey, have you seen the girl up there? No, I don't know. Nothing. And then, I'm like, well, who are the guys? I'm just asking a bunch of questions. Like, what's going on? Who are the guys in the front? Where did you see her? Like, just, going through it all. And he starts, in the middle of kind of drilling and maybe making him freaked out. He starts to, no English. This is this weird thing. And then he decides to, essentially kneel. And he's talking to us kneeling and no English. And we're like, what do you need? It was just the weirdest encounter between both of them. So, long story short, we're talking to this guy. It's all weird. I'm getting ready to, honestly, I'm basically getting ready to beat the shit out of the guy because it was weird. I have goosebumps talking about it now. It just didn't seem right.
So to this day, we don't know who that guy was who was kneeling on the
I have no clue.
This guy assists Logan radioing the head of maintenance, Benjamin, or known Ben. Ben comes down and Logan described him as a shady individual. Very rude, very sketchy, very weird and uncomfortable feeling. Saying no, they haven't seen her, they don't know. He stated, these workers, they're no way, act like a dick. So
it's your sister, it's your family, it's your blood. I love her.
That afternoon, Jennifer's brother, Logan, began to question some of the construction workers at the complex. He said they were uncooperative.
It didn't feel right.
Did you sense somebody knew something?
Yeah, 100%.
Now the times of when the family had arrived are misinterpreted throughout the Kesse story in detail. A lot are through the story. In Greta Van Susteren 2014 Fox News 3-part special, Van Susteren Investigates, she said Logan had arrived at noon, and then Joyce Kesse stated that they arrived an hour after he did. In an Inside Crime with Angeline Hartman's episode 1, Drew Kesse said 1 o'clock p.m. they had arrived. Luckily, in Unconcluded podcast, Joyce clarified the times were 3 o'clock p.m. and 3:15 p.m.
Logan had arrived in Orlando the hour before we did.
At approximately noon, Logan pulled into Jennifer's condo complex.
We ended up there probably about 45 minutes after that, around 1 o'clock or something like that.
Logan and his buddy Travis got there at 3, and Drew and I arrived in Orlando at 3:15. You obviously are aware that there's a lot of misconception out.
Drew and Joyce Kesse arrived at Mosaic at Millennium.
I recall arriving at the condominium complex and there being a multitude of workers just going about their business because it was the condo to apartment to condo conversion. And I just remember high anxiety on our family behalf.
Sure, when we approached the condo complex, everything was normal to us. We got up to the guard gate, and we got let in quite quickly. They really don't take a lot of information.
Kesse's immediately realized their daughter's car was also missing.
And this is her spot right here, 2226.
The one next to... So it couldn't be much closer to her apartment.
Right.
I mean, it's as close as you can get.
The management met Drew Kesse and Joyce, and Logan and Travis unites with them, and they directly enter Jennifer's condo and reinforces what management saw.
Soon after, Drew and Joyce arrived.
My dad called and the property manager met us back out there and opened the unit for us.
There was no forced entry into...
When they arrived at the condo in the early afternoon, a building manager opened Jennifer's locked apartment. What did you see the first time you walked in?
Her travel bag. It was like she walked in the night before and just dropped her suitcase right where it was. The rest of the home looked like a maid had been there. God love Jennifer, but she's a little bit of a bathroom pig in the morning. So makeup, curling iron, all that stuff all over the vanity, wet shower, wet towel.
days after her disappearance, I traveled to Orlando, where the Kesse showed me inside their daughter's home. Is this how you discovered her room on the...
Well, no, the bed was unmade, and she had like 2 skirts and a pair of slacks on the bed, like she couldn't figure out what to wear. Right. But these are the clothes she wore to work Monday, and we've not disturbed them.
Okay. And that's where she left them?
And that's where she left them.
There were some signs in the condo that she had taken a shower, or someone had taken a shower, right?
Yes. Wet towel on her washing machine in another room.
Shower walls were damp.
Jennifer's briefcase and cell phone were nowhere to be seen. Also gone was the phone that Logan's friend Travis had left in the condo after the party held there while Jennifer was away. Everything indicated she had left home for work that morning, and
the Orlando Police Department's officer arrives at Mosaic at Millennia. This single police officer looks around the condo and says, "Well, nothing looks disturbed. It looks like she got into a fight with her boyfriend. This happens all the time. She'll be back." The Kesse fought him and said this is not how she operates, and they don't like that, and that this is not what happened.
they also called the police.
When the officer arrived at the Kesse complex, there was already a search.
Captain Rich Ring is with the Orlando PD.
Her brother was there, her mother and her father.
The first response of law enforcement was, well, she had a fight with her boyfriend, she'll be back. Jennifer was an adult, and at that time, she was allowed to be missing.
All they had to say was, this happens all the time, we'll have her back in 48 hours. And we were kind of taken back by that. Told them we didn't like that. You don't know Jen, you don't understand, this isn't normal.
It was...
At first, the Kesses say police infuriated them by not taking their daughter's disappearance seriously. I'm like, come on, start to work, get to work. Police say they did not believe Jennifer's case met the criteria for declaring her missing. They kept suggesting that she must have had a fight with her boyfriend and would be back.
Police and met an officer at her condo, told him what we experienced up until that point that day, not being able to get Jennifer on hold, or no one could get a hold of her. And he shrugged his shoulders and said, well, she probably had a fight with her boyfriend, she'll be back, and he walked out. Our first encounter with police was, well, she probably had a fight with her boyfriend, she'll be back, and I'll never forget that. And we said, you are mistaken. And it took about 4 more hours of calling people, to call people in Orlando before we finally got a detective.
The Kesses take things into their own hands, which is also a symbol for years to come as well. The family started printing out flyers in the condo from the computer, height, weight, telephone number to call if you have seen her. This was the beginning of using Jennifer's condo as a base of operations. During this time, Robert Allen, Jennifer's boyfriend, arrives with his mother at the condo.
During that time period, at 4:30 p.m., we were already on the corners in Orlando passing out flyers of Jennifer's face and a telephone number in which to call if you have seen her, because we did not accept the police's response.
They were standing on street corner.
Took matters into our own hand.
Orlando's community is really amazing. When there is something as big as this, they all come together.
Jennifer's sorority sisters and friends arrive and start doing the same.
She had sorority sisters that were everywhere, making flyers, searching, calling.
Everybody just started putting flyers all in her condo complex, on cars, banging all the doors.
And I remember waiting till I think it was like 6 p.m. and by then Carrie was already at my apartment. I remember Joy was on her way, everyone to come stay with me, because it's like even 5 hours in, we all knew something was very wrong.
Everyone, family, sorority sisters, had stopped handing out flyers and headed back to Jennifer's condo.
That day when it started to get dark and they still hadn't heard from her, it was like, it just felt like crazy. Just, what is happening and where is she?
The police finally take it serious, and the Orange County Police Department police officers arrived. after they called again. They find 14 people inside at her condominium and say that this cannot be used as a crime scene, and a be on the lookout BOLO is issued and she's declared a missing person.
Parent, I think, in the early evening hours, that due to Jennifer's very strong family connections and the way her family interacted, that we were dealing with something that was suspicious and that she was in danger.
But by early evening, when there was still no sign of Jennifer, police officially declared her missing.
So at any rate, the police, we finally got the police there. And by that time, we had called all of her friends, our friends. We had people coming in from all over the United States. When the police finally took us serious, which was about 8 or 9 o'clock at night, we had about 14 people in her condo. Police walk in and say, well, we can't use this as a crime scene. I'm like, what do you mean you can't use this crime scene? Take our prints, ask us to leave. Well, you have a murder in a bar. What do? Walk out because there's too many people? Are you kidding me? So they really didn't, not take us seriously, but they just were roundabout things. They really were just roundabout things.
Also couldn't count on getting any reliable forensic evidence from Jennifer's condo.
It was never secured by Orlando police. By the time they took it seriously, we had 14 people in the condo. And they said, well, you ruined the crime scene. And I said, are you kidding me?
The Kesse family was using Jennifer's condo to sleep to hear anything about Jennifer, while cops were starting to take this seriously and look at every FedEx or UPS mail sites to find Jennifer's car and came up with nothing.
The most frustrating thing is not knowing where Jennifer's at, not knowing where to look next.
Patrol 15, can you send me the call, please?
We can sit around and discuss different ideas and different theories, but not having a concrete, solid avenue to go down to bring resolution to the family is the most frustrating part of this case right now.
As the desperate hours went by, Sergeant Roger Brennan and his team of investigators searched the streets of Orlando looking for Jennifer Kesse.
We were going through canvases of areas that she would travel or that she might be at.
48 Hours interviewed him in 2008.
As we were driving around the area, around her complex, we were trying to identify different areas that her vehicle may have been seen.
With the whole block being filled with Jennifer Kesse's flyers, and being aware that this young lady had been missing, they knocked on all the doors. They continue holding out flyers on the corners, and news start coming and weighing in with reports of a missing woman. The Kesses make an observation of the maintenance workers not being there in the morning for work.
We had blanketed the complex on the evening of the 24th with missing posters of Jennifer. The very next morning, more than 2/3 of the workers didn't show up for work. So obviously they were frightened. Now, we had put flyers on every car, on every condo door, on every utility door. And I just think it's telling that
They worked it very hard. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Louis Bolden.
Louis Bolden is an investigative reporter for WKMG in Orlando.
Her family called the TV stations themselves, knowing that we need help, not just the police. We need this to be everywhere.
I'm Amy Caulfield. This morning, investigators in Orlando are trying to track down a missing woman.
Amy Caulfield is a reporter with Orlando's Fox 35.
It was one of those stories where you just instantly knew something was very wrong.
The immediate thing you have to consider is maybe she was on her way to work or she was out away from her apartment and something could have happened to her. Her car is missing. Her family says she's missing. She's not been to work.
She drove a black Chevy Malibu. It had been all over TV for 2 days.
Now in Florida, we have a number of bodies of water. We have all kinds of different places where cars can break down.
Yeah, this is Millennium Mall right here.
Tips came in, yeah, we think we see it over here, we think we see it over there.
Tuesday
It was one of those stories where you just
Immediate thing you have to consider is maybe she was on her way to work or
over TV for 2 days.
now.
Episode 1 of the Stars Aligned, it's time. We had 2 timelines. We had the first timeline, basically jumping into Jennifer's life, into what happened to Jennifer from her parents' perspective. I believe I nailed the timeline to be exact, but if I didn't, I would love for the Kesse family to reach out for me. This way I can clarify a few things that they have told me. But I just try to make it as articulate, accurate as possible for people, web sleuths, people that are interested in this case could definitely know where to begin, wrap their minds around everything that happened. So that was my goal. For now, for this timeline, what we're going to start with is our investigation into what happened to Jennifer Kesse. We're definitely going to begin with what happened leading up to the time she was considered missing. We go all the way back and we see 8 a.m. was when Robert Allen would typically call Jennifer Kesse. He did not receive that call, and that was the time that he typically received it. We're going to be authentic as possible in this investigation, but we have to get into the evidence. And so we got to go with Jennifer would usually arrive at work at around 8 o'clock. That is when her shift began. We got to go with 8 o'clock she went missing. As if she got to work, start there until we can narrow down this timeline. See what I have written here. It says time of the abduction. It's 8 o'clock a.m. Tuesday, January 24th, 2006. A lot of the things that I have problems about with the Jennifer Kesse's case is that the timeline could be a little bit unaccounted for. Jennifer Kesse's shift started at 8 o'clock a.m. The Kesses have stated that it could be between 7:30 to 8 o'clock a.m. But it's been over 16 and a half years and years on end. But it's very, very important that we get this timeline to an exact science. This way we know, we can narrow it down to what happened and what time it actually happened. We all know with the Greta Van Susteren and Mrs. Kesse, Joyce Kesse, emphasized it was actually 3 o'clock p.m. that Logan and Travis Bourguignon had arrived at the Mosaic at Millennia, and 3:15 p.m. when her and her husband, Mr. Kesse and Drew Kesse, arrived at the Mosaic at Millennia. I've taken the ride from the Mosaic at Millennia to Westgate Resorts in Akali.
Here it is. Open up these doors.
It is approximately a 30-minute drive. Jennifer would not leave between 7:30 or 8 a.m. So Jennifer would leave at around 7:30 in the morning to get there in 30 minutes. So a little bit before 7. So you could probably say she would leave at around, maybe she would leave her apartment around 13, get in her car, just get there, enter work at 8 o'clock and clock in. So we have to sit here and say that it wasn't 8 o'clock a.m. around 7:30, time of the abduction. Now we're going to go into the timeline. In the first episode, we said we were going to do 2 timelines. This is going to be the second timeline, which was her 24 hours approximately before the time that anyone heard from her or she went missing. We're going to begin this on Sunday, January 22nd, 2006. We're going to begin this at 10 o'clock p.m. Jennifer and Rob sleep at Robert Allen's house in Fort Lauderdale. Okay, they had just returned back from a trip at St. Croix.
And she stayed in southern Florida?
She stayed with Rob.
From 10 p.m. to 4 o'clock p.m., her and Rob are sleeping into Tuesday, January 23rd, 2006. 4 o'clock a.m. to 5 o'clock a.m., Jennifer gets up and gets ready to leave. 5 o'clock a.m. to 8 o'clock a.m., she kisses Rob goodbye and drives to work.
She drove on that Monday morning from southern Florida.
She would leave there around 6 o'clock to get to work. She drove directly to work. She did not go to her condo.
And this was a drive that she was familiar making because she would always sleep over her boyfriend, so everything is just pretty regular from here. Robert was the last person to see her that was close with her physically. 8 o'clock a.m. to 6 p.m. She checks into work. Great day. She was talking about how great her vacation was.
She came into work and worked all day Monday.
She's working at Westgate Resorts. 6 o'clock p.m. comes.
At the end of the day, I was leaving the office and stopped by to talk to her. We had a brief conversation, and then I left the building. And that, as far as we know, was the last time somebody saw her.
She walks out with her boss, says goodbye, talks about her day at work.
Right here. Walked out these doors, had a conversation with her boss right here, and that was it. Last place she was seen physically. Last place she was seen physically. Could have walked around these routes, whatever, parked there, whatever. Who knows?
Parked into her car and drives off. 6:15 p.m. Jennifer passes a toll booth and gets on the phone.
She drives home and she calls you on the way home.
I spoke with her at 6:15. She had called just to say, okay, I'm back, and got done with work. And Logan, who lived with us at the time, her brother.
6:30 p.m.
Company, Jennifer called her mom.
Jen shared every detail about the trip. She was just really happy. She was on a cloud.
Parents, she's talking to Logan, she's talking to her father Drew, she's talking to her mother, and she's talking about her vacation, how great it was at St. Croix. Logan came on the phone with her and said that because they were staying there the weekend before for just a get together. She said, my condominium's open, you want to use it while I'm gone? Go ahead. And they said sure. They drove up and they had a good time. Her ex-boyfriend was there, Matthew Sullivan, along with Travis. Logan was talking, they had a good time. They went to iDrive, I believe he was talking about, and we'll get into that later. And he said that his best friend, Travis Bourguignon, had left his phone there. And basically he needed to, find a way to get it back. So she said, sure. She hopped on the phone with Travis and, explained to him how he was gonna get it to her, and she was gonna UPS it to him on her way to work. There was a UPS station literally at her job. And that's what she was gonna do the next morning, and he was gonna go pick it up and everything was gonna be okay. They talked about, how good the trip was. She was just getting in her door, getting in her condo on the phone, as usual.
Wanted to speak with her.
Talked about how my weekend was, how her trip was. Travis left a phone at her condo, so I asked her to please mail that for me.
We spoke when she got back. She got back into town, got back to her condo. It was that Monday. I was at my parents' house living there, so I was getting ready to move. So she just called the house line. We were all chatting with her, catching up, Talked to my parents and talked to me, told her thank you. We had a great weekend. Told her my buddy Trav left his phone there. Please mail it, all that kind of stuff. No problem. I'll get it on my way to work in the morning. Just normal, like catching up. It was awesome. Just heard about her trip, And then obviously just the big thing was please get Trav's phone in the mail because I'm not driving back to Orlando.
And eventually she got off the phone. From 7 o'clock p.m. to 9:30 p.m. she was on the phone with her friends. Jennifer talks to her best friend's childhood, Lauren Dulligan, who's now Lauren McCarthy.
I had talked to her on Monday. She was kind of, in a little bit of a funky mood just because it was the end of a vacation, and I think the distance was becoming more apparent to her in her relationship.
And two other friends. We don't know who it is. I know it was not Kristen Ender. It could have been a few unknown. Carrie, could be, but it was 3 friends she talked to from 7 o'clock to 9:30 p.m. And on the phone with Lauren had said that Jennifer had sounded, a little blasé, a little not in the mood, not too good. She was a little, upset that, her and Rob were long distance. It was kind of getting to her. She was in a funky mood, and she just wasn't, talking. It was just, it was really getting to her, and she missed her boyfriend as usual, the usual. And from 9:57 p.m. to 10 o'clock p.m., her and Robert Allen had a brief phone call. It was 3 minutes.
I talked to her probably, I believe, 9:30, 10 o'clock on the Monday evening. We had a disagreement over a phone, like any husband, wife, any boyfriend, girlfriend, any couple might.
But that evening, Jennifer spoke with Rob, and their conversation didn't end well.
We had a disagreement.
Long distance was taking a toll on their relationship.
She was a little emotional, saying, oh, you don't love me, I'm not with you, and a little insecurity.
They spoke around 10 p.m.
And then that evening, we had a conversation, as we always did, and she'd call me normally on the way home from work. She had a 40-minute commute or 30-minute commute that we'd talk. I mean, everything was the same as it always was. Just missing each other. Wish we could be together, wish we were still on holiday. Regular couple stuff. Then that evening, I know I was busy, and I think she kind of felt that I wasn't reinforcing how much I missed her and how much I cared for her.
Sure.
We had a little bit of a disagreement there, and I was just kind of like, hey, look, I miss you. And she was like, I don't think you miss me as much as I miss you, and that type of stuff. But the last time I talked to her was just before 10 o'clock, because when she was going to bed, she said she was tired.
And they called, and it was basically a lover spat. Rob had said that you're just saying, you don't love me, this is not going to work. He says, just a little insecurity. He says, I do love you, I just, we just lived so far, and typical dating stuff, He lived in Fort Lauderdale, she lived in Orlando, so they were 3 hours apart. One of them they were trying to push each other to make the move, and one of them wouldn't budge. And he was just like, I love you. And next thing you know, they said, I love you, and it was good night. Now, I do want to clarify. Mr. Kesse in the Q&A in 2021, I don't know who did the Q&A, but I do know that there has been reports that there was a knock on her door 9:57 p.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. That is false. There was no knock that night. That knock was prior, like 2 or 3 weeks prior, before she went to St. Croix, while she was on the phone with her friend Lauren Doligan. A person knocked on the door around that time, but it wasn't on that day, January 23rd, and it wasn't on the phone with Rob. It was with Lauren Doligan weeks prior. And basically, the person knocked on the door, and she goes, I don't know who that is, probably the neighbor upstairs, and they didn't think much of it. She was very safety cautious, and obviously she was not going to answer that door. That ends at 10 o'clock p.m. was the last time anyone had heard from her. John Willman was the last person to see her physically at 6 p.m. And the person closer to last see her physically was 5 o'clock a.m. and it was Rob. So that just does it for the timeline there. It's time to get into the investigation. We have a 9.5 hour window of anyone having contact with Jennifer Kesse from Monday, January 23rd, 2006 at 10 o'clock p.m. to Tuesday, January 24th, 2006, 9.5 hour window into the night.
On Thursday, January 26, 2006, in the morning, in more than 2 days, a break comes in. A tip that the police actually worked. A woman living at Huntington on the Green condominiums was watching the local news of Jennifer Kesse. She had seen a black Chevy Malibu the days parked there, never seen before, that matched Jen's car, parked out front. And she was talking to the detective working the case, Sergeant Barbara Jones. When police arrived there, Orange County PD, they clarified it was Jennifer's car by the license plate H90KYC. Woman who lived there is unidentified.
Occupation, the use of a high-tech boot could be a construction worker. Probably what this is the white particles surrounding this big white particle. For my conclusion, I come down to that this white particle is paint. A boot footprint.
Like he was off duty for the time being. He lived on Citral Drive near Wingate, Kingsgate. It's literally the block next to it. Right across Oak Ridge.